how we can grow and increase our profit, but with the purpose and leave positive impact that takes the current and future generation into account. Talking about the future, we are also here today to open new opportunities and include more clients and sectors. Today, we are very pleased to sign another cooperation agreement with the EBRD, which gets the support from the EU and the GCF to mobilize additional funding, technical assistance, as well as incentive grants to support more green and sustainable projects. We will now be a responsible partner as we pride ourselves to be. We will not be a responsible partner as we pride ourselves to be if we don't embrace diverse communities and ensure robust inclusion. Therefore, today we will also sign with EBRD Therefore, we today will also sign with EBRD Youth in Business Agreement to empower youth and young entrepreneurs with the needed funding, capacity building, advisory programs to enable their transition towards a greener, more sustainable future. Before I close, I would also like to value QNB partnership with the United Nations as a signatory to the Global Compact and QNB Al Ahli as the member in the United Nations Environmental Program Finance Initiative, as well as a signatory to the Principles of Responsible Banking. To conclude, I would like to confirm that the Egyptian banking sector understands its responsibility to support the transition towards a more carbon neutral and socially equitable ecosystem, and continues to take measurable actions in line with the targets of Paris Agreement Vision, Egypt's Vision 2030, Egyptian National Climate Change Strategy 2050, and the directions of the Central Bank of Egypt. Ladies and gentlemen, as a closing remark, I want to express my gratitude and thanks to the Governor of the Central Bank of Egypt, His Excellency Mr. Hassan Abdullah, the Chairman of the Federation of the Egyptian Bank, Mr. Mohammed Al-Itribi, as well as the Engineer Mohammed Al-Swidi, the Chairman of the Federation for the Egyptian Industries, for making this event possible. I wish everyone an insightful and beneficial conference. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Jürgen Rattring, the EBRD First Vice President. Actually, Mr. Rattring, it would have never been possible to be here today and discuss all what we did together unless you were here together with your team. So please leave the floor to you. Thank you.
Yeah, let's see if I can do it like this as well without the beeping. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here. An honor because we're here indeed with a long-standing client. An honor because it's great to be back in Egypt. And an honor because we're here at the COP. I would like to thank you in particular for your kind invitation for your event. Indeed, as you already mentioned, we enjoyed a long and true partnership with QNB that spans Egypt, Turkey, and Tunisia. It was in 2015, as you highlighted, that we signed the first green economy financing facility with QNB Al Ahli, which was generously supported by the European Union. And the second actually followed swiftly in 2019 with the Green Climate Fund stepping in as well. And beyond green, we actually have also been working with your bank to promote economic inclusion. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we were the first with you that has signed a woman in business line in Egypt. And this by itself is already impressive enough. But allow me to share a story, a short story to paint you a picture of the impact our partnership creates in Egypt. El Bogdaya Group is an agriculture company that sells its fresh fruits and vegetables to domestic clients like Gypsy and export markets that range from Iraq, Greece to Italy. It is a family-owned business with a wife, a husband, and their son running the company since 2003. Together with QNB Al Ali, the EBRD provided just over $500,000 for the company to invest in 16 wobbling diffusers. I didn't know what they are, but these are modern pieces of irrigation technology that leads to a better irrigation uniformity, as well as water savings due to its higher wind resistance. And critically, our investment also included a technical assistance package. And our team assisted El Bogdadea in selecting the best available technologies, evaluated the technical feasibility of the project, and how the company's competitiveness would be enhanced by the investment. We now expect that this investment will reduce water consumption by 21%, result in energy savings of 27%, and double the economic profit for the company. So good for climate, good for the company, and let's face it, also good for us banks because the client is repaying us. So to me, that is a very impressive story of the transformation that a financial institution like you actually can enable. And we need to green more financial institutions in Egypt so that we have more stories like this, like El Bogdadea. In doing so, we can enable Egypt's transition to being a green energy hub for the region and reduce the water stress on the Nile. So green transition to net zero cannot be accomplished and funded by governments alone. This simply transcends the capacity of sovereign balance sheets. Greening financial system is thus at the core of EBRD's mission. The EBRD's flagship green economy financing facilities harness local networks and expertise of our partner financial institutions like QNB Al Ali to provide approximately 5 billion euros to over 200,000 projects today. I told you the story of El Bogdadea to explain what green financial institutions can do. Let me now tell you another brief story, and this time about the EBRD. We have set ambitious goal to scale up our climate finance by 2025. The EBRD's green investments are expected to reach at least 50% by 2025. We also aim to double our private sector mobilization by that time. And in fact, private indirect mobilization by EBRD more than doubled in 1 year, last year compared to this year. Yes, indeed, we are going beyond green financing by aligning all our investment and lending with the goals of the Paris Agreement from next year. As we include the climate lens in all our investments, we want to take our clients on this journey. In the process of our Paris alignment, we worked with other MDBs to develop an approach that other actors can follow. But we understand that our clients need our support to transition to a net zero world. Therefore, for financial institutions, corporate and municipality clients, we have launched the so-called Corporate Climate Governance Program, or CCG. And CCG enables clients to assess, manage, and incorporate climate consideration into their governance strategy and risk management structure. And I'm very happy to say that we're starting a CCG assignment with QNB Al Ali early next year. So, ladies and gentlemen, I began my speech with the impacts our partnership with QNB Al Ahly has created to date. This partnership grows today with the signing of indeed a new green economy financing facility loan agreement with the generous contribution of again the European Union. And I congratulate QNB Al Ahly for its commitment to scaling up climate finance, and I really look forward to doing many of these signings again. Lastly, my advisor, who worked with you in the early years, sent me actually a company update from EFG Hermes that came out today, and that had the title, Boring is Good. I don't know if you already read it. So while that might be the case from a financial perspective, I would say that you are everything but boring, and that we're extremely excited to be aligned with you. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Jürgen, for your inspiring speech that showed the great collaboration and alliance between QNB Al Ahly and EBRD. Now, it's a time for brief documentary videos that showcase QNB Group's sustainability achievements, as well as EBRD, QNB and EBRD green and sustainable financing journey. Enjoy watching.
And industries from around the world to take measurable action towards a more resilient, greener, and sustainable future. We, as QNB Group and as the largest bank in the Middle East and Africa, have made it our purpose to promote prosperity and sustainable growth across the communities we serve. QNB is proud to support the collective goals of COP27 and the Paris Agreement in line with our commitments to national and international sustainability initiatives. QNB is a signatory to the United Nations Global Compact, UNGC. QNB Al Ahly is a member of the United Nations Environment Programme, Finance Initiatives, UNEP-FI, and a signatory to the Principles for Responsible Banking, PRB. QNB has defined a sustainability framework and strategy along the pillar of ESG, addressing the topic across sustainable finance, sustainable operations, and beyond banking. QNB and the banking sector has an important role to play in supporting the transition and in allocating financing support to deliver nationally determined contributions to reinforce its internal capacities in sustainable and climate finance. QNB builds strategic partnerships with several multilateral development banks, NDBs, known to have the best international practices in this area. In Egypt, QNB Al Ahly, being the largest corporate lender among private sector banks, its main focus has been to educate its corporate and SMEs clients to manage environmental, social, governance, and climate changes challenges and enable them to capture the related business opportunities. QNB's focus on sustainable finance drives action to deliver new products and opportunities and support the transition of our clients and stakeholders. QNB Al Ahly was the first bank in Egypt to enable the first independent rooftop solar power producer in the industrial sector, the first solar project to operate under the net metering scheme, and the largest single rooftop solar project in Egypt till date. QNB Al Ahly enabled several waste management and recycling projects with special focus to those producing alternative fuel to support the decarbonization of energy-intensive industries. QNB Al Ahli did not only provide the needed finance, but also a high level of technical assistance that enable these special kinds of projects having significant environmental and social impact. Under QNB Al Ahli Creative Design Incubator Hub, we incubated several women and young entrepreneurs, encouraging them to work with sustainable material such as recycled agriculture waste. As an example, one of our incubated projects was able to produce furniture from treated banana leaves. We actively contribute towards socio-economic development through our active corporate social responsibility activities. QNB Group's commitment, achievement, and impact to sustainability is recognized through its external ESG ratings, cementing QNB Group as a regional ESG leader. QNB Group has been recognized for its sustainable, innovative, and inclusive offerings from internationally renowned institutions. QNB Group wishes all participants a successful COP27, and together we look forward to creating a more environmental friendly future for all.
In today's world, financial institutions are key players to help build countries' resilience to counter the threat of climate change through providing the needed capital for the economy. In Egypt, expanding green and sustainable financing is at the top of the government's agenda to achieve its development goals. EBRD is one of Egypt's main development partners. With support from the European Union and the Green Climate Fund, along with other donors, has succeeded in developing multiple green economy financing facilities that are now leading green financing instruments in Egypt. Today, green financing available from the EBRD exceeds $700 million, channeled through local banks to support Egyptian businesses investing in green technologies. EBRD has also started to follow a gender-responsive approach to promote gender inclusion in climate finance. In support of access of young entrepreneurs to financing, the EBRD has launched the Youth in Business countrywide program. QNB Al Ahli is one of the largest banks in Egypt and the largest lender among private sector banks. Realizing the great impact QNB Al Ahli can achieve through its corporate and SMEs activities, QNB Al Ahli was the first bank to participate in EBRD's green economy financing facility in Egypt, with green credit lines exceeding $117 million, focusing on SMEs, women empowerment, and young entrepreneurs. Since 2017, through the GEF programs, QNB Al Ahli financed 95 projects, many of which were for SMEs, and 20% of them in the renewable energy technologies sector, as well as investments in industrial energy efficiency, sustainable water use, resource efficiency, waste management, recycling, and others. QNB Al Ahli's finance projects were implemented across 16 governorates throughout Egypt and tackled all sectors from industry and agriculture to retail, education, and health. QNB Al Ahli financed Egypt's first rooftop net metering solar project, the largest single rooftop and the first battery storage project, and financed producers of alternative fuels to help decarbonization efforts of heavy industries by displacing fossil fuels. QNB Al Ahli's finance has resulted in avoiding 135,000 tons of CO2, equivalent to taking 29,000 petrol cars off the streets. And today, building on the success created together, the EBRD and QNB Al Ahli are extending their partnership by signing another 2 loans targeting private sector businesses and young entrepreneurs to build an even stronger sustainable economy and focusing on access to finance, sustainable energy, better use of resources. GEF as an example of a tripartite collaboration among donors, multilateral development banks, and commercial banks operating in Egypt, GEF is key to growing more financing opportunities and adapting to climate change, needed to take the COP27's mandate into implementation.
Now, and without further ado, I would like to invite our esteemed panelists to our session about the role of banks in scaling up sustainable finance, moderated by my colleague Sally Hamdallah, Head of Financial Institutions and Multilateral Development.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our panel. It gives me a great honor and pleasure to moderate our climate dialogue today between our EBRD friends and QNB Al Ahli. So honored to have such a great lineup. In the room, we have Mr. Tariq Fayed, QNB Al Ahli Assistant CEO, Board Member and Chief Business Officer. We have Mr. Francis Malij, EBRD's Managing Director for FI, and my friend, Ms. Maya Henriquez, EBRD's Director, Climate Strategy and Delivery. And joining us virtually, my colleague, Leo Chi Wong Tong. He is QNB Group Head of Sustainability. It gives me a great pleasure to moderate our panel today between QNB and EBRD. Our climate dialogue today is around the role of banks in scaling up sustainable finance. Our session objectives are defining the role of banks in facilitating the implementation of sustainable finance and the right mechanism to enable climate change and climate mitigation and adaptation projects. Then the responsibility and increasing interest of banks to develop and adopt internal policies and strategies and systems addressing climate, environmental, and social risks in our internal, external operations and activities. The demonstration effect of building strategic alliance between banks and MDBs to mobilize developmental financing, technical assistance, and capacity building practices. The importance of structuring tailor-made products and services that speak to the specific technical needs of the clients, proving the commercial benefit of sustainable finance. It helps to open new market opportunities and economic growth and sustainable profit while reducing the negative impact on environmental and social activities. We will also discuss how gender and youth inclusion is indeed a growth factor in this green journey. I'll start with my colleague Leo, QNB Group Head of Sustainability. Leo, QNB Group is the largest bank in the Middle East and Africa. With such positioning, how has QNB Group contributed to and scaled up sustainable financing in the region? Do we have Leo? Voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Sally. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow panelists. It's my pleasure to join you all virtually here today at COP27. Firstly, I would like to reiterate Mr. Mohammed Badir's statement in that QNB Group has made it our purpose to promote prosperity and sustainable growth across the communities we serve. So from that purpose, everything else follows. Our sustainability strategy, our approach to sustainable finance, our policies, our stakeholder engagement, these are all manifestations of that purpose. Sustainable finance is one of the core pillars in our approach to sustainability. And the essence of this pillar is in two core aims. Firstly, to manage and reduce environmental, climate, and social risk in our value chain. And secondly, promoting and financing the transition to a greener and more socially equitable and just economy. Our environmental and social risk management framework forms the basis of QNB's group-wide approach to integrate ENS criteria into our lending and credit decision-making. This framework establishes the minimum standards across the entire group, whilst allowing for local requirements and specificities. Now, of course, we screen illegal, sanctioned, and prohibited activities. We have ENS, risk categorization, and environmental review. But it's worth highlighting here that our approach is also accommodative, not just exclusion-based. And that is, we aim to work with, encourage, guide, and support clients, especially those early in their ESG and climate journeys, to adopt responsible business practices. And at the same time, to ensure that we as QNB are not adversely impairing the social economic development of local communities simply by saying no. For example, here in Egypt, our policies offer support to clients to help them manage their own ENS risks and making available the required technical assistance through dedicated funding programs with our partners at the EBRD. Now, moving from risk to opportunity, to finance the transition to a more carbon neutral and inclusive economy, our sustainable finance and product framework, which will be one of the first in the region, will guide and shape our ESG-related products and transactions across the entire group. It sets out our classification approach for labeling any financing activity as sustainable and has been developed in full alignment with international standards and taxonomies. Such international standards and our existing green bond framework has enabled us to launch in 2020 our first and one of the largest conventional green bonds issued by a bank in the GCC region. By independent assessment, this bond will deliver meaningful environmental impact, conserving 26 million cubic meters of water and avoiding over 500,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions. This was followed last year by a green bond placement between QNB Finance Bank and EBRD, our first such collaboration in Turkey. And as part of our commitment to financial inclusion, we continue to partner with the EBRD on its flagship Women in Business program to support and promote female-led enterprises. So in closing, these are just a few examples of our over 30 sustainable products and services, which demonstrates how we as QNB Group aim to take action to deliver positive impact across the region through our sustainable financing. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of COP27, and over to you, Sally.
Thank you, Leo. Very interesting, because to some people, when we say sustainability policies, ESG policies, taking climate into our decision-making process, they think we're being or putting limitation to business. And to QNB Group, growth is a must. With this, I move to Mr. Tariq Fayed. Mr. Tariq, QNB Egypt is the largest private lender in the country, and SMEs sits in our heart and DNA. So kindly shed some more light for the benefit of the audience, how we view sustainable finance as a catalyst to our growth and not a limitation to business.
Thank you very much, Sally, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a pleasure to be amongst this distinguished panel, to be in the presence of distinguished audience. The question raised by Sally is an important question, and QNB Al Ahli and QNB is a results-oriented institution. We pay lots of attention to the numbers, the figures, the growth, the profitability. What I'm going to walk you through is how we did this with the sustainability in mind with the social responsibility in mind, with the climate protection in mind. First of all, I need to thank our partners, and we consider the EBRD now colleagues and partners. We are not at all different from the EBRD, and we are now work in a very, very good harmony, and it will continue. Our cooperation with the colleagues from the EBRD is not only about financing. As Mr. Ringrick mentioned, it goes beyond financing to technical assistance, advisory, to us as a partner, to them, and to our clients. This is a cornerstone of the idea about sustainability, is the orientation and the education to the community. We looked into one of our major competitive advantage, and we are a very good lender. We know how to reach out to clients, and we know how to attract the clients, and we know how to do business. And while we as an institution is very environmentally conscious institution, we ourselves save on power, we recycle our waste, we are very conscious, but we are just one institution. So we decided that we need to do our part, but we need to spread the knowledge, and we spread the culture of sustainability and environment protection as much as we can. We are spread all over the country. We have 7,000 young men and women scattered in 230 branches all over the country. We have a huge population of corporate SMEs and retail clients. So we decided to use this as our arms to spread the knowledge and spread the culture about climate protection, climate environment protection, sustainability. So our model is capitalizing on our competitive advantage and how to orient our clients and how to educate our clients and how to show them that you can do profitable business while you take care of the environment and you take care about the climate. Definitely the support we saw from the EU and the climate fund, the Green Climate Fund, did a considerable contribution, especially for small SMEs, for startups, for entrepreneurs that would like to have a leverage, to have a lift, to push them a little bit ahead and incorporate whatever additional requirements for sustaining the environment into consideration. This is not an additional financial burden. And this is where the fund, the grants came in, kicked in, and supported our clientele. We moved into this phase of education, orientation, into really achieving results. And as we saw on this video, I give you some of the numbers again. We managed to close and book more than 100 transactions. It is in the venue of close to 1.5 billion Egyptian pounds, already done, already executed. We talk about another 1.5 billion Egyptian pounds transactions in the making. And this is where we will sign with the EBRD today to continue funding the pipeline that we have in front of us. The road is still at the beginning. Yes, we signed in 2015. Yes, we are very environmentally cautious, but it is still step number one. It is a baby's step in the direction. The road is still too long, but with the capacity we have, with the knowledge we have acquired, with the partnership that we have with the EBRD, we know that it will be not an easy road, but a manageable road, a doable road to achieve all the COP27 objectives, the United Nations objectives, the EBRD's objectives, and QNB Al Ahli objectives. I thank all the colleagues from the EBRD, and I definitely thank the colleagues from QNB Al Ahli who managed to get on board Sally, Niveen, and the rest of the colleagues who are not with us today, who managed to engage with a commitment. And what we saw today from these successful cases wouldn't have been made without the support of the two colleagues on the both sides, EBRDs and QNB Al Ahli. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Tariq. It's a long road, but we are committed, as you said. And the clients are the true power horses on this dialogue. Now to our EBRD friends. EBRD is one of Egypt's main developmental partners with a strong ambition and strategy for promoting green and inclusive sustainable financing. Francis, as EBRD's Managing Director for FIs, would you please brief the audience on how these areas of focus are reshaping the way you partner with FIs?
Thank you, Sally. And I must say it's a long time since I first came to Egypt to visit. At the time you had a different shareholder, and but it's also a good way to see how much progress we have made over the years. When we came to Egypt, EBRD was 25. Egypt was 5,000. So we're all 5 years later. Okay. But the road is still long ahead of us. And so why do we work with banks in every country? In every country where we operate, we work with banks. And I'm really happy to have QNB and other banks as well in the room. We work with banks because you enable us to push the EBRD impact deeper into the economy. EBRD is a bank that signs 400 or 500 transactions a year, but with the network of partner banks that we have, we reach 750,000 SMEs every year. So thanks to you, you completely multiply the way that we work. And this works with banks like yours, where you say, okay, what you do, is this social responsibility or is this your business? And you say, wait a minute, what's the difference? Right? You have social responsibility completely ingrained inside your DNA, and that's why the partnership is also so strong. So we work with banks on energy efficiency. We work with banks on youth in business, on women in business. We're very happy to have you as a partner as well for women in business in 2 countries, in Turkey and in Egypt. And certainly, this partnership between EBRD and financial institutions is at the core of the strategy of EBRD, certainly in this country and in the other countries where we work.
Thank you, Francis. I'm glad that today you didn't say this is not enough. I'm glad that you didn't say it.
He didn't also say that when he came to us, he had more black hair. Now he's getting older, my friend.
He's getting younger. He's getting wiser.
You see?
Maya, I saw your eyes spark when Leo mentioned our ESRM, because EBRD has been providing us with the advisory support to set our ESRM, the Environmental and Social Risk Management Policy. So Maya, as a sustainable finance and ESG expert for almost 20 years, could you tell us how climate and Paris alignment actually sit within the wider ESG context? And how is the EBRD working with FI clients like ours on Paris alignment and transitioning process?
Okay, this way around. Thank you. Thanks, Francis. Gladly, yeah. Can I just say, before I go to my talking points, it gives me so much pleasure to see how far QNB has come on your sustainability journey, because as Saleh just mentioned, we met a few years back when we were advising on the environmental and social policy and the risk management system. And I think from where you were then and where you are today, I find it impressive. So it gives me so much joy.
With your support. Thank you, Maya.
So how do we work? Yeah, I mean, of course, Jürgen has mentioned it before. We have very stringent targets for our green financing, but we also felt that's not enough. We need to make sure that all the other financing that is not essentially green also does not contradict the Paris Agreement. So we have committed to be fully Paris aligned as of the end of this year. That means that we'll work with our FI clients, of course, as well on that. So in reality, that means we will ask for commitment from financial institutions to commit to walking that walk with us. We will then go a little bit in stages because, as Francis has outlined, we have a lot of financial institution clients. We can't sit with everyone straight away. So we will first satisfy ourselves that our use of proceeds essentially is not at any risk of being misaligned with Paris. And where we're not quite sure, because maybe it's an equity transaction or perhaps a bond transaction where the use of proceeds is not clearly defined, there we will carry out a more intensive assessment just to see where the bank stands. And that's also an assessment for the bank itself to see, okay, where are we actually on that journey? So it's not just something that goes into our black box and we won't tell anybody. Certainly something that becomes part of our conversations with the client. And then what we will do is we will provide capacity building, we will provide help. You've mentioned also our climate corporate governance facility, which is sort of the backbone. We have 25 million with which we can support clients from the FI sector, from the corporate sector, also municipalities. And we will help draft transition plans. We will help think, what does it mean for us as an institution to become Paris aligned? And then this should culminate then in an actual transition plan. And I think this is really where we see that, as you asked in the second part of your question, we need to put this conversation into a bit the wider context of ESG. And I think, again, QNB is a great example for that. And you know, I'm particularly proud because we hear very often from clients in the emerging markets, oh, okay, but you know, Maya, we can't do this. You can ask these things from an EU bank, but how are we supposed to do it? And I think you're showing that it's absolutely possible. And the wider ESG context is, I think, really what Leo outlined. We take care of the environmental social risk first, then we can concentrate on the opportunities, and then we can harness the opportunities. And I think that's what you've been doing. And you've also been expressing frequently throughout this day, and also in previous days, I heard you say that there's a very strong human perspective, of course, to climate and to our green journey. It's not just about the green technologies. It's really about the people. It's about reaching clients in remote areas, in underserved areas. And I think this is the way we need to do it.
True. Thank you so much, Maya. Excellent. Because when we first sat down to do the ESRM, and as Mr. Tai said, SMEs is so close to our heart, we were really worried that it would be limiting for SMEs especially. But with the technical assistance component that gives the necessary enabling to our clients and to us, we were able to navigate through this process together. Thank you so much, Maya. Francis? Barbara was supposed to be with us, but the virtual connection for her did not work, unfortunately. And Barbara takes care of the inclusion and gender and youth inclusion in EBRD this journey. That's Barbara. But Francis, with the increasing challenges of climate change, resource scarcity, and population growth, it's now more eminent than ever to embrace diverse communities and ensure robust inclusion. With the Barbara's inclusion and economic development background, what is the untapped potential that can be unlocked from promoting equal access to climate finance to women and youth? And how can women and young people act as accelerator of this green transition?
Well, so this is now me as a spokesperson for Barbara. I think it's also, I happen to believe that also very much myself. You know, when there is a crisis, people that have less access to finance, less access to resources, suffer more. It is true for the climate crisis, just like it is true for war, it's true for economic crisis as well. And so that's why it's important. And in Egypt, what we see is that the participation rate of women in the workforce is actually very low. The number of SMEs that are owned by women is also very low. I have 7 or 8% in my data. and the portion that is owned by young people is also relatively low. And it matters because, well, first of all, women are more reasonable people than men. So, and fighting climate change is a question of being reasonable. And also because climate change matters more to young people because they'll have to live with the consequences longer than us that have grown white hair over the years. And so that's why we have these inclusion angles to all of our products, to these products that we're going to sign. And just to say how we do this, we think that when it comes to inclusion, access to finance is just one piece of the equation. What matters as well is to combine it with technical assistance, with networks as well. Last week, we launched a youth in business program in the Balkans. And we had 2 young entrepreneurs there. And they said, even before EBRD came, we create a club of 20 to 40 CEOs because we didn't find anyone in our networks, in our family, and so on, we could actually talk to about our problems. And so these sorts of programs, we strongly encourage you to also create a female entrepreneurs network or a young entrepreneurs network and make them work together and talk to one another, because that's going to bring value to you, to them, and to Egyptian society beyond the loan. Then there's, of course, the notion that every one of us in our daily life, and it's true in bank decision making as well, we all have biases. We all have unconscious biases. Someone walks into my office, within the first 5 seconds, I actually have an impression of them. Are they serious? Are they going to be able to resist pressure and so on and so forth? Are they a good entrepreneur? Then I'm going to look at the numbers and so on. But if I don't train myself to recognize this initial bias, this initial impression of the person, then I might make the wrong decision as a branch manager or as a client loan officer. And this is actually demonstrated in data that in banks, when the loan officer and the client are the same gender, the loans are significantly larger and cheaper. There's a statistical difference, right? And similarly, but it also, the more experienced the loan officer, the less this impact is. And the more competition there is, the less this impact is. But by training and by thinking about it, by identifying these sorts of biases and by changing the processes to eliminate them, we can all make progress together. And that's the point of these facilities. And I'm only happy, you know, it's never enough, but I'm only, when I'm happiest is when the loan has been disbursed, you have started the program, you have lent to female entrepreneurs, and then we come back and say, you know what, we've decided to continue with our own money. That is a really, you know, that's the really, the real success for these products. And of course, we're there with more technical assistance and more grants, but we want you to continue doing these things without us.
Thank you. Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, Francis and Barbara, both of you. You will soon hear directly from our women and youth clients how we put our hearts and soul to enable their projects with our comprehensive financial solution, which we built and designed and delivered together, that understood their specific needs and spoke directly and efficiently to them. We have a couple of minutes left. We're very efficient on the time today. So I'd like to open the floor for any questions. No questions? Please. Mike?
Thank you. I'm Lilia Shushanya from Armenia, and I'm former Deputy Minister of Mining, now on consultancy on climate and mining. What about banks? I'm interested not only what you are doing on in your portfolio supporting projects for climate change, but also how you green yourself. So greening the banks, your portfolio, your inner structure. What are the main directions about this greening the bank in your structure? Thank you very much.
بالتالي قصدها الانترنال اوبريشن.
I think I understood the question, but if I answered another question, please stop me. Okay. This is what I understood as a question is a very good one, because I think you touched upon a very important subject, which is we can never, any bank, any institution can never do what we did and what we plan to do without a proper internal infrastructure. And we started by the human capital. We started by training our staff that would be involved in this type of activity, orienting them on all the aspects of sustainability, whether we talk about climate, whether we talk about the environment, whether we talk about the social part like women and youth, SMEs, startups, entrepreneurs, all this terminology that was not very popular in the past. We wanted our colleagues to be very much knowledgeable about what does it mean and what are the social implications. When I said, for example, that we have 100 projects up and running, you talk about a multiplier of individuals who have now, they made a living from these projects. So on one part, training the people and training the staff in an adequate way. The second thing is that you need to have a seamless processing. Those type of clientele whom either are a startup or an SME with very little knowledge, or a mid-cap that you are trying to convince them to do something that is environmentally friendly. Those people cannot spare the time in an endless processing of studying, analysis, discussion, negotiations, and back and forth. So what we wanted to make sure of is that from door to door, we have a very efficient processing cycle, processing documentation, doing the credit analysis, building the relationship. So the second part was ensuring the smoothness of the internal operation and internal processing. The third thing, which is a crucial one, is the follow-up. Once you give them the money that you have borrowed, whether from the EBRD or from depositors, you need to make sure that this money went in the proper route, did what it was supposed to do, and yielded what it's supposed to yield, and is being repaid back to us. So the follow-up and the monitoring. And the follow-up and the monitoring create the relationship with the client, because you knock on the door of the client frequently, you talk to them, you call them, and you see the evolution of their business, and you control the disbursement. So I thank you for the question, because these are among the factors of success for these models to work. Thank you very much. And I hope I answered the right question. Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay. Our distinguished panelists, thank you so much for your participation. It was a great honor for me to be among you. Thank you. Thank you.
طالعه في مصر ودخلها في مصر في مجال التنميه المستدامه والتكنولوجيا الخضراء.
كيون بي بنك بيدعمنا، احنا في اول تاسيس للشركه اصلا كان في بنك كيون بي الاهلي، هو اللي قال لي على برنامج تمويل سلاسل القيمه الخضراء، بحيث ان انا هيقدر يديني منحه ويقدر ننفذ مع بعض المشروع ويدعمني دعم فني زائد الدعم المالي. احنا استثمرنا في اجهزه الري المحوري اللي نظام العمل بتاعها قايم على رشاشات احدث. المشروع ساعدنا في ان احنا نقدر نوفر في الميه بنسبه 21%، وساعدنا ان احنا نقدر نوفر في الطاقه 9500 ميجا وات في السنه. فده عمل تقليل التكاليف، زود معانا فائض التشغيل بحيث ان احنا نقدر نزود الرقعه الزراعيه اللي احنا بنزرعها، لان انا دلوقتي لما بزود الرقعه الزراعيه وبتزيد عندي الانتاجيه بقدر ازود تصديري للخارج.
احنا بنتكلم في الشورت تيرم ان البروجكت ده بروجكتد ان هيوفر اكثر من 7000 طن من السي او 2 ايميشنز.
السيدات لها دور فعال جدا في الشركه، غير ان هم موظفات هنا في الاداره. محطات التصدير في مصر كلها قايمه على السيدات العاملات. في برضو بعض العماله بتدخل في حصاد المحصول في الاراضي. طبعا المشاريع الناجحه اللي بتتعمل ديت بتخلي الشركه قدرتها التنافسيه اعلى، بنقدر ان احنا نكبر في السوق، بنقدر ان احنا نزود الانتاج، بنقدر ان احنا ننافس على التصدير، ننافس على العقود، ننافس على السوق المحلي. ده كله بيساهم ان الشركه تكبر وتاخد مركز احسن في التصنيف حتى الشركات هنا الزراعيه.
I'm Yasmin Khamis, Vice President of Oriental Weavers Company. Oriental Weavers was founded in 1979, and we have now today become the world's largest manufacturer of floor coverings. We produce printed, woven, tufted, and hospitality floor coverings for the world. We have manufacturing facilities in China, the United States, and of course, Egypt. We have been discussing with our international and global partners and clients over the last 5 years how to become a sustainable partner to our importers and retailers. In 2016, Oriental Weavers Group made a strategic decision to improve its energy performance and consumption. And in 2017, we were introduced to GEF through QNB Al Ahli. After our introduction to GEF, we started to learn more and more about energy consumption. And to be honest, they provided us with a unique opportunity. Not only because of the grant, but more importantly, because of the learning curve. They were our technical partner. They guided us through the technical know-how that we were still learning. Their knowledge, their support, we tackled improvements not only in our core business, which is carpet weaving, but also in the utility equipment, such as boilers, compressors, and lighting. Now, Oriental Weaver stands in a position where we are contributing to the environment, where we are producing carpets made of 100% recycled materials, which is another form of sustainability. With the support of the EBRD and the EU and the grant that they provided, Oriental Weavers was able to save 42,000 megawatt hours this year and 7,600 tons of carbon dioxide. So now we can safely say Oriental Weavers is an active contributor to the green era and to energy saving. Oriental Weavers will continue to strengthen their commitment to reducing environmental footprints.
شركة لحاق شركة متخصصة في مجال الإنتاج الزراعي، بقالنا حوالي 23 سنة موجودين هنا في محافظة أسوان. ده المشروع الزراعي بتاعنا اللي انتم مشرفينا فيه، وده مشروع متخصص في إنتاج بعض المحاصيل الزراعية زي القمح والبرسيم اللي احنا واقفين قصاد. في منها موجه للتصدير رقم 1 وفي منها موجه محلي رقم 1. احنا اعتمدنا بنسبه 90% من الوظائف بتاعتنا على اهل النوبه اللي هم موجودين في المنطقه هنا. بالنسبه للسيدات بنتوجه ليهم من اسوان بنات سيدات بشكل يومي في اثناء تعبئه محصول النخيل والمانجا. احنا على بحيره ناصر شاقين ترعه من على بحيره ناصر بطول حوالي 2 كيلو. عندنا محطه رفع رئيسيه. كل المولدات اللي عندنا هنا كانت مولدات ديزل. احنا كان اعتمادنا 100% على استخدام الديزل. وده كان تكلفته عاليه جدا، كنا بنوصل لتكلفه حوالي 32 مليون جنيه في السنه، وده رقم كبير يقلل من اي ربح للمشروع. اشتغلنا مع QNB الاهلي وبرنامج GFC. طبعا هم عندهم اداره فنيه محترمه جدا قدرت تساعدنا بشكل كبير من ناحيه التمويل ومن ناحيه الدعم الفني ومن ناحيه المنحه الماليه. فبدانا في فكره انشاء سولار انرجي اللي هي الطاقه الشمسيه بتكلفه 1 مليون دولار، فلقينا ان هي تقدر تولد لنا 2 جيجا كهرباء. المشروع في اقصى حمل ليه بيستهلك حوالي 2.4 جيجا، فتقريبا هي لو اشتغلت تقدر توفر لي 90% من استهلاكي على مدار فتره النهار. هي عملت لنا ايه الطاقه الشمسيه؟ قللت سولار وقللت تلوث، ده بندين عاليين جدا عندنا، ادت المشروع لمجال ربح، وده برضو حاجه كويسه جدا، وده الهدف الاساسي من الاستثمار. قدرنا نوصل لمرحله ان احنا نوفر حوالي من 20 ل 25% من التكلفه اللي هي بتاعت السولار. فاحنا نقدر نقول ان احنا وفرنا تلوث بيحصل في البيئه بحوالي 9500 طن من غاز ثاني اكسيد الكربون عن طريق استخدام الطاقه الشمسيه، وده رقم بالنسبه لنا عظيم جدا. وان في عندنا رؤيه ان احنا ان شاء الله نكبر الطاقه الشمسيه ونخليها 4 جيجا ان شاء الله الفتره الجايه.
أنا طه محمد، عندي 28 سنة، صاحب مشروع موز فايبر. بدأت فكرة المشروع بعد ما شفنا عرض التجربة من فريق من سنغافورة على منصة منتدى دندار الاقتصادي في نوفمبر 2017. التجربة بتتكلم عن معالجة ورق الموز لصناعة القماش والأساس منه. كل واحد فينا بدأ يشتغل لوحده على صناعة الأساس لأنها كانت الأسهل بالنسبة لنا، والعميل بتاعها والسوق بتاعها مفتوح في مصر، لحد ما مركز دندار الثقافي وفر لنا المكان المناسب اللي نبتدي نشتغل فيه مع بعض. زي ما مركز دندار الثقافي وفر لنا المكان اللي احنا بنشتغل فيه وبنعمل فيه المنتجات دي، وفر لنا كمان من خلال علاقاته مع المزارعين واصحاب الاراضي المزروعه موز ان احنا نعيد تدوير مخلفات حوالي 3000 فدان. لحد دلوقتي احنا استخدمنا منهم 70 فدان. في بدايه المشروع احنا بدانا بتمويل ذاتي حوالي 54,000 جنيه نقدا، وطلعنا مجموعه من المنتجات وعرضناها في منتدى دندار الاقتصادي في 2018 علشان نختبر السوق ونشوف اراء العملاء فيها. خلال الفتره دي طبعا استمرت تدريبات وزيارات فريق سنغافوره لينا. في الفتره دي قدرنا ندرب حوالي 15 فتاه بمساعده مركز دندار الثقافي، ونوفر لهم فرص عمل قريبه من بيوتهم. بالفعل كان انتاجهم اكثر من رائع، وطبعا ده بالاضافه لفرص العمل اللي وفرناها للشباب في جمع وتجهيز ورق الموز. كمان عملنا مجموعه من الشراكات مع سيدات من النوبه واسوان ومشهورين بالصناعات اليدويه الاحترافيه، حوالي 12 سيده، علشان يصنعوا لنا منتجات نوبيه احترافيه بشكل جديد مصنوعه من ورق الموز. في بدايه المشروع قابلتنا مجموعه من التحديات، منها تحدي عدم توفر الايدي العامله، وده تغلبنا عليه من خلال تدريب عدد من الفتيات علشان يشتغلوا معانا. التحدي الثاني كان تصنيع شاسيهات بتصميمات عصريه، فبدانا نشتغل في ورش في القاهره. ده ظهر معانا التحدي الثالث اللي هو تكاليف النقل العاليه من القاهره للصعيد. ده خلانا نخطط ان احنا ناسس ورشه كامله علشان نصنع فيها الشاسيهات عندنا هنا في المصنع بتاعنا. خلال السنتين اللي فاتوا كنا ماشيين بخطوات بطيئه ومش منظمه، لحد ما سمعنا عن مبادره رواد النيل اللي بتتضمن برنامج حاضنه الاساس الخاصه ببنك QNB الاهلي، واللي بتخدم المشروع بتاعنا لان احنا بنصنع اساس. فقدمنا مباشره في الحاضنه عشان احنا كنا فعلا محتاجين التدريبات والدعم المقدم من خلال البرنامج ده. وبمساعده مبادره رواد النيل وحاضنه اعمال الاساس الخاصه ببنك QNB الاهلي اتقدم لنا مجموعه من التدريبات والمعسكرات الخاصه بتصنيع الاساس، واللي فادتنا كتير في المشروع بتاعنا. ووفروا لنا كمان مجموعه من المستشارين اللي قدموا لنا الدعم الفني والمهني اللي ساعدنا في نجاح المشروع بتاعنا. والمساعدات دي ادت الى تاسيس شركه بشكل قانوني وفتح حساب بتسهيلات ممتازه من بنك QNB الاهلي. بدأنا نشتغل على الشركة بتاعتنا بشكل صحيح ومساعدة فريق عمل حاضنة أعمال رواد النيل والدعم المقدم منهم. بعنا خلال الفترة دي عدد 3 أنطريهات و3 سبيطة كبار وعدد منفذات الورد والمفايش. ده كله كان اختبار للتكنولوجيا اللي احنا شغالين بيها. وشاركنا في عدد من المعارض منهم معرض ديارنا، والحمد لله المنتجات بتاعتنا لقت قبول كويس جدا من العملاء. بنخطط الفترة اللي جايه ان شاء الله ان احنا ننشئ مقر جديد في اسنا علشان نوسع من الانتاج بتاعنا. خطتنا في ال3 سنين ان احنا نفتح سوق جديد لبيع مخلفات الموز كمادة خام للتصنيع، وإنشاء مراكز تدريب للحرفيين لإيجاد حرفة جديدة للصناعات اليدوية من ورق الموز، وده علشان نتحكم في سلسلة الإمداد الخاصة بالصناعة بتاعتنا. شكرا مبادرة رواد النيل، شكرا بنك QNB الأهلي.
Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to celebrate the true implementation of the spirit and ambitions of COP27, just a simple evidence of how we are taking the matter seriously with deliverables in the ground. You will now witness the signature of the following, but let me call Mr. Bidir and Mr. Rick Trink to the stage, please. What we're witnessing today is the signing between QNB and EBRD with the support of the EU. We are now signing the following agreements to top up our existing green and sustainable finance loans from the EBRD to reach USD $185 million to be on lend to green and sustainable projects. We're also obtaining a new use in business loan from EBRD in the amount of USD 20 million to be on lend to SMEs owned or led by use under the age of 35. To source a technical assistance from EBRD to QNB in climate as well as youth banking. Also to source capacity building training and advisory services to both QNB and the relevant clients. To avail incentive grants supported by the EU to the relevant clients. With these signatures, we're very happy that we're now reaching the aggregate funding and cooperation agreement worth of USD 750 million granted from EBRD to QNB along the past few years. Yes, we have 2 more signing. Intro. لا هو عكس كده احنا هنصلح هو حضرتك اللي مضيت؟ And now the on-lending part, the client's part. Niveen. Now we're signing a memorandum of understanding, including the agreed terms between QNB and Intro Group to raise EGB 200 million 12 years loan to finance a tri-generation combined heat power plant
for 14 megawatt to power a commodity and industrial complex. This transaction is partially financed under EBRD GIF program as supported by the EU. Ayman, would you care to say a few words?
Good evening, everybody. I'm so happy to be here tonight, especially that I have two of our very long-term partners together in one room, and I don't think this is a coincidence because I believe we all share the same value. We're so proud to have both. Okay. You hear well? Okay. So both EBRD and QNB were one of our first partners when we came and thought of sustainability and going green and doing good and doing well at the same time, as we always think. You can always do very well and do very good. It doesn't mean that to do well, you harm the environment. I think we are the only creatures in the whole universe that have this option to do good and do bad to the universe. All other creatures don't have an option. So EBRD were or still are our partners into sustainable resources. QNB were partners since long time. One of the projects that were shown today in the presentation and the video, which is the recycling the PET back to food grade rPET, was one of the first in the region, and QNB were partners. So I'm so happy, and especially that today we just signed one of the very first projects of its kind, which is Tri-Generation, CHP, where we provide to factories energy, steam, and chilled water, saving not less than 30% of their gas consumption, which saves a lot of carbon emissions. And I'm more happy to announce the signing of an MOU to take this to 50 factories with total targeted amount of 500 megawatt of power, with total, I just have the numbers started getting a little bit big, so I just need to say the not out of my mind. Saving gas up to 15 million MBTU annually, saving $800 million worth of LNG that Egypt can sell to other countries a year, and saving, that's the most important number, 600,000 ton annually of carbon emissions. So we're happy and would love as well that EBRD to be a part of this together, do good, do well, and we're targeting to do this in the coming 3 years. So let's hope the best, and let's celebrate next time we meet the 50 factories working in a very efficient manner. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sally, and thank you, QMB, for inviting us. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. It's great to meet our EBR team, Mr. Jorgen, and all the team. Actually, just a quick one. When we started 2014, we started in the renowned Bimban Solar Park. It was a transaction of around $200 million. And it was a very interesting time. It was a single transaction. We structured finance at that time with IFC. But yeah, that's what happened. But I would say it was definitely our first experience. We worked with big utility companies, and then this is how we were all introduced to the whole renewable market. Fast forward 2017, 2018, we started venturing into the commercial industrial market, a tougher market, a very hard competitive market. And just to understand the impact of this facility on a $10 million, which we've worked across different 5 locations, the amount of employment, the same amount of employment, the same amount of capacity building was built on a $10 million comparable to a $200 million investment. Financial inclusion is true. A full value chain is true. To the number of suppliers were more, the number of contractors were more, the local employment was more. So we're very happy with this structured partnership. It was very tough at the very beginning to work with commercial banks to understand what's structured finance, what's non-recourse finance. So the technical element of this capacity has helped a lot. And we're very much happy working with the team, Sally, Mr. Tariq, definitely, Naveen, and all the team at QMB. And we very much look forward for more projects. Thank you once again. And now we work with EBRD, and we're happy with the partnership with the EBRD. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Hello. We have a session now on by the Project Management Institute on closing the gap between project management and sustainability initiatives. So whoever would like to attend.